believe it's on.
I'll show them on. Yes? Yep. Excellent. Thank you. Hello, everyone. It is a privilege, albeit a slightly terrifying one as the first speaker in front of so many people, but a privilege nonetheless to be opening today's session. When it comes to AI, I've been in this industry for what could be considered a pretty long time. Not as long as AI has been around, but well and truly before it was cool. And, you know, when I first started in AI, people would say, what, like Skynet? I was like, no, it's nothing like that. But with the release of LLMs and GPT models a few years ago, we've kind of all been inundated with an absolute flood of AI hype. Any look at LinkedIn or the news would have us believe that most contact centres have replaced at least half of their agents with super intelligent bots that can predict your customer's mood before they've even dialed the number. But this year's report has allowed us to look past a lot of that hype and see where we are, like where we actually are. And the results were a little bit of a reality check. You see, when we asked centres to describe their current AI position, we found that 44% are currently just analysing their calls and data. Let's think about that for a moment. Nearly half of this industry is sitting in observation mode. We're looking at our data, we're looking at our calls. We haven't pulled the trigger on any active automation as yet. In fact, only 4% of respondents are scaling any automation across multiple workflows, which is quite different from what the news and vendors would like to have us believe. And some may look at this 44% and go, oh, we're really behind, but not me. I do see it as a healthy level of caution. As an industry, we're all kind of collectively reading the manual because we want to understand the why before we really rush into that how. And AI can provide us with insights that we simply have never seen before. So if those that are observing are looking down into their interactions and going beyond a single wrap code, there are incredible insights that can be gained. But, and this is a pretty big but, only if we do something with it. You see, the window is narrowing for us to catch up. And we need to move as an industry away from being ones that just look at the data to one that uses the data to create experiences that are robust and beneficial for everybody. And so if we have 44% that are just sitting in observation mode, what are the other 56% doing? Well, we saw some winners on either side of the interaction. In the pre-call space, 32% of people doing customer ID and V. It makes sense. It's a straightforward compliance and efficiency case. It's accessible because the outcomes and the problems that it solves is really, really clear. In the post-call, we were looking at the call summarisation. 35% of people are already using it, 20% are currently experimenting, another 10% looking to implement in the next 12 months. Which means by the time we all get together, this time next year, 2/3 of our centres will be utilising this technology. Again, because the outcome is tangible. It's something that we've monitored and measured for a really long time, that after-call work. What we're not seeing much appetite, however, is when it comes to that auto-disposition, which means as an industry, we're still really comfortable in our agents choosing a wrap code at random, or if at all. But contact centres really have been at the forefront for AI transformation for a really long time, but we have been slow with our execution. And if we're at a tipping point, and this report does allude to that, and we were to stop observing and start moving from tomorrow, where would we move? How would we reshape our centres to have the highest impact? Well, of those that have done some automation, there was a clear winner, and it was in that post-call documentation. And this, again, it makes sense. It works in with what we're talking about with the call summarisation. When you take away that manual burden of having to summarise a call, you're not only saving seconds, but you're actually making the employee experience better. You're allowing them to be fully present for that conversation and the next. You are getting clear, consistent, accurate commentary and data, because no longer do you have one agent writing an entire novel and the other one just writing a single sentence. When we looked at the rest of the list of where people are finding the best impact, routing, reporting, authentication, the level of impact was relatively even, which means beyond that obvious first win of call summarisation, there is no exact next step. That's going to be dependent on the outcomes that you want to achieve. What was notable, however, was CRM updates only had a 2% impact. And I don't think that's through lack of appetite. I actually think it's a symptom of the complexities of integrating multiple systems, and sometimes legacy ones. So my advice here is not to get stuck in the integration mud for your first project, right? We are seeing the highest impact come from those clear and tangible outcomes. When you're clear with your outcomes, you can get what you want. If you're not, you will end up spending more time fixing problems than actually benefiting from them. What did really catch my eye with this report, being such a voice-dominated industry still, was that 80% of respondents were not using any form of voice AI. But those that are using it, not a single person has said it isn't effective. In fact, of those using voice AI, 71% are looking to increase their usage in the next 12 months, which begs the question, why aren't we looking to use voice AI more in this industry? Perhaps it has to do with the divide of where we're comfortable for this type of technology to take the wheel. You see, adoption was heavily skewed towards inbound use cases, like a digital concierge. Greet your customer, understand what they want to do, navigate them to where they need to go. Nice and easy. But when it came to outbound, the confidence just was not there. Of those that responded, only 5% were doing end-to-end sales, debt recovery, none. Not a single respondent was comfortable with voice AI doing a collections call. And it makes sense. Outbound is hard enough with a human workforce, let alone an AI one. And it shows that we're really comfortable with AI in those controlled inbound environments, where the customer has initiated that contact. But when the conversations become more sensitive, a bit more nuanced, when the stakes are higher, we are pulling back. So we want our humans to do the human things, where there's complexities and when we need empathy. So the takeaway is super clear. The technology is very capable of doing it, but it's our confidence that is lacking. So understand the problem you want to solve, and then move forward with that. Figure out what you want to automate and what you don't want to automate. But 2026, we have a pretty strong pipeline, especially when it comes to compliance. The stakes of getting it wrong have never been higher, which is why in the pre-call space, we have 16% are looking to do real-time automation, and post-call, our auto QA is really, really high. 24% are already experimenting it, another 20% are looking to implement it in the coming year. Again, it's because those outcomes are really clear. The traditional model of manual QA has us sitting in a haystack in a hope that we might find a needle, whereas AI is now presenting you with needles for action. It's reducing our guesswork, and it's creating consistent QA and compliance. In pre-call, we are seeing 16% of respondents are looking to implement conversational AI and voice bots for those routine inquiries. But hang on, when we were looking at voice AI, only 9% were experimenting and 2% looking to put it in. Perhaps as an industry, we kind of need to revisit what we think voice AI is or isn't. But regardless of this conflict, there is a wave of implementation coming, and simply turning on the tech will cause more problems than it will solve. You see, success requires us to have a solid ground to work from. And I'm here to tell you that this industry has a dirty little secret. You see, with this massive wave coming, we asked our respondents how confident they were in their data readiness, and the results were staggering. 3%. Just 3 described their readiness for data as completely confident. Let's let that sink in for a second. We have a massive wave of implementation coming, yet 59% are in the cautiously moving ahead or not confident at all when it comes to their data readiness to support these projects. We are trying to build a skyscraper on a foundation of sand, and you cannot fuel these genius tools with garbage data. If your foundations are shaky, your AI outcomes become unreliable. And unreliable outcomes don't just lack getting you your ROI, they erode the confidence that you need to be able to scale. We have to think that data readiness is not a parallel work stream. It's not something that can be done later on. It is a prerequisite. So if you are a part of that 59%, your priority for 2026 is not to go out and get the best software that you possibly can. It's to fix the foundations that that software needs to actually be able to work. And outside of data, what else is stopping us? Well, I'm sure this will surprise absolutely no one, but budget hit the top. But also in there, at third, was the lack of internal skills at 42. We delved into that and asked what type of internal skills people were believing that they were missing. At the top of that list was technical implementation skills at 55%. And this is where I want to be a little bit controversial. You see, there's this misconception that technical capability equals AI capability. That if IT does not build it, the AI will not come. But in today's world of low-code, no-code platform, the build really should be the shortest path. You see, the real bottleneck is not the lack of engineers, it's the lack of experienced design elements. You know, we understand the customer journey, the logic, the operational nuances that create the most optimal experiences. When we think about it, AI needs to be tuned and course-corrected almost in real time. So if you need to log a ticket every time your AI needs a personality check, well, you've kind of already lost, right? We need to take the ownership out of the server room and into our BAU operations, because that engineer mindset is fantastic when it comes to infrastructure, but it's the designer mindset that allows us to have AI solve the human problem. So don't wait for your technical saviour. Make sure that you're focusing on the conversational and operational design elements. How can we help? So at Customer Driven, we are practitioner built and led, which means that we've all been in the trenches. We've all got the scars to prove it. As I mentioned, I'm over a decade in AI and 25 years, don't look at the greys, when it comes to the contact centre, which means we all give practical and pragmatic advice. Get through some of that hype. The other week we started our 3-part webinar series, which is a kind of a no BS approach to AI. I'm helping take everyone through the different implementation journeys from AI. If you register, you can still get access to the last recording, and the next one is later on this week. We can come in and just provide you some clarity within your AI, where you might be able to find AI practices in your existing business, or just have a cuppa and a chat. But to wrap up, if you're to take just 3 things from these stats as you move through the rest of today, let them be this. Stop watching and start moving. With nearly half of us in observation mode, you don't need the perfect AI strategy to move. Move now, but move with that design-led intention. Fix your foundations. 3% confident in their data readiness, the biggest risk to your AI projects is not going to be the software, it's going to be the data and the processes that it's pulling from. And democratise the build. Challenge the idea that AI belongs to IT. It's when you have operationally minded people, like the people in this very room, when they take ownership. AI and automation does reward preparation, but don't get stuck in analysis paralysis. We're seeing the biggest wins come from those clear and tangible outcomes, and the businesses that are using those early wins to then build the momentum for broader change. So, understand what you want to get with your outcomes, start small, iterate, and expand. Thank you.
Thank you, Adrian. I might just pop up the QR code again. We've got plenty of questions coming through, but if you came in late, this is how you can submit some questions to our speaker and vote up ones that are already there. Okay, we've got several questions from the audience. With the advent of AI, are knowledge management tools being integrated into telephony systems or still separate systems?
Bit of both. So you're seeing some people that want to leverage directly from their knowledge management, but a lot of knowledge management platforms are not really built or created in a space that makes sense, right? And so there are a lot of platforms that you can write directly into them and utilise that instead of using the KM. So you can do either way. If you're ready to do those things, you can definitely launch it directly from, make sure that your prompting is correct so it works for the medium and the audience. or you can normally write directly in.
These questions are getting voted up and moving before my eyes. Are there benchmarks for assessing how well AI is doing in the automation tasks people are implementing? So how many mistakes, etc., are being made?
That's a great question. I think that is one of those things that becomes more how you're implementing it and what the outcomes you want to get, because everyone's going to have something slightly different. So as much as it might be, we want to save costs, or we want to improve people's, containment rates or things like that, it's going to depend on your business. And so my advice is, when you are going to do one of these projects, understand what success is going to look like on 1 month, 3 months, 6 months. What does success look like? And make sure you're designing for that success. The biggest one is where people are like, I want it to contain all of my contacts, but then at the end of every bit of content it says, contact us.
Yeah.
So it's kind of counterintuitive.
How do you see the AI journey with regards to KPIs such as rapport and the like?
That's a really great one. And there is a bit later on today when it starts to talk, or it's even just the next one with Dan, where it starts to talk about, customer experience as a part of your AI. I think when we look at those things, people need to really think about, is this good or bad? As Australians especially, you'll find that people don't want to give positive feedback, just generally, especially to a bot. So it does make it really, really difficult. So it is looking at a lot of those other metrics and then making sure people are getting the outcomes that they're after. If they're getting something and then they're still having to contact, well, then your rapport's not doing well.
You don't want to hurt the bot's feelings.
No, exactly, right?
So you talked about only 3% of organisations are completely confident in their data readiness. Question from the audience: with the 3% of respondents who were confident with their data management, did you do further analysis on how they achieved this state? We didn't really. Follow-up question is, any tips or best practices to get there? And that's kind of been a big question as we presented these results, is how do we know when we're at that data readiness stage?
When is good enough? Yeah. So to your point, no, we didn't delve further into what got them there, but you're never probably going to get it exactly right 100% across everything. And so part of it is making sure that when you deploy these things, that you do it in a segment and then watch it. The most common problem is people will deploy AI and go, well done, pat themselves on the back, and they'll walk off and good work. But the first day is the worst day. You need to be in there and checking it and modifying, and whether that is the prompt or is it the data or what have you, it's constant tweaking and changing and things like that. So it needs to be in a format that you're comfortable with. Have real people test it, not just your IT. Have real people try it out and ask real questions and see what the result is, but be prepared to change and modify as you move along.
And we'll finish with this one. How do you decide which processes are actually worth automating versus which ones shouldn't be?
So if you have a complicated process, so if you say a non-expert in your field, let's say, can they come and find that process, can they understand it, and can they follow it nice and easily? If they can't, that's not the process you should put AI on. So if it is complex and convoluted for a human, it is complex and convoluted for AI, and it will get tripped up. So the best thing to do is to really critically look at your processes and go, is there a better way of doing this? Does it need to be so complicated? And if not, simplify it and then run your AI over it.
What a great point to finish on. Ladies and gentlemen, please thank Adrian.
Thank you.